Fury versus Usyk and Ngannou versus Joshua? Knuckleheads, that's what this is sounding like right now. And if you would have told me a couple weeks ago that this was going to be the immediate future of the heavyweight division, I would have told you to lay off the crack pipe. Listen, Tyson Fury, Usyk, looks like it's going forward, looks like it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen in December because of this rough fight he just had with Ngannou, but it's going to happen. But what I'm really intrigued about is what Ngannou does next, right? Because as much as I want to see Undisputed and see what happens there, Ngannou has just thrown himself into this mix. I mean, this is absolute madness. And now he's got Wilder's side and AJ's side interested in him. And if you're listening to Eddie Hearn, if you've been listening to what he's saying in very, very recent interviews, up-to-date interviews, it sounds like that fight is getting near to crossing the line. I'm talking about Ngannou versus Joshua. And look, if you ask me, Ngannou versus Joshua or Ngannou versus Wilder, I think the smart money is on Ngannou versus Joshua. Ngannou versus AJ happening first because you've got a couple different factors, right? First and foremost, I think it's less risky. Wilder still has that eraser in that right hand. It's a big problem. And if anyone gets caught with that, maybe even Ngannou and his big old head, he might get knocked out. So AJ, I think, is a little bit less risky as far as getting caught with that one punch. You've also got the fact that they both have very recent African ancestry. I mean, with Ngannou being straight from there, and AJ, I think, probably being like first generation or something like that. I think he's of Nigerian descent. So that could pique the interest of fans, obviously across the pond, especially if they're going to do it in Saudi Arabia or Africa. But I would imagine they do it in Saudi Arabia. And for me, Saudi Arabia is probably the biggest reason that this fight is probably going to be between Ngannou and AJ, because Eddie Hearn has already kind of created that market over there. They're going to want that over there. He's worked with the Saudis. There's a strong African presence in Saudi Arabia. And I just think this fight would really, really pop in Saudi Arabia versus the Wilder fight. I'm not saying the Wilder fight wouldn't pop, but I just think AJ, bigger, more marquee name. Again, Hearn kind of already has his feet wet in Saudi Arabia. And I think that fight is probably going to happen next. As far as who I think is going to win these fights, that's another really intriguing thing, right? I mean, Fury just looked so bad against Ngannou, or maybe is Ngannou just that good? And how's Fury going to fare against an Usyk who, is a guy that's very consistent? Usyk doesn't really have off nights. Usyk is always really good. And if he has a close fight, typically it's because he fought a really good opponent. But Fury, man, we've seen him put on the canvas a few times. He is, in my opinion, if he's fighting at his peak, the best heavyweight on earth still. But, man, that did not look good in that last fight. How does he do against an Usyk who's always sharp, always on point? He's going to have to get up for this one. As far as Ngannou versus AJ, wow, very intriguing. Is that a fluke, what Ngannou did against Fury? If it's not, if he can go in there and bang out AJ, my goodness, I mean, listen, the guy already had, if there was, any kind of beef between him and Dana White, the UFC, the guy's already definitely had the last laugh, or at least his very own laugh, right? Because the UFC continues to do well, but look at this guy now. This guy made probably way more money than he would have ever made in MMA. And I thought he was crazy for leaving MMA, right? Because I thought he could have been the best. But it looks like for the bag, it really worked out for him. And, now he's in the mix with the best heavyweights in the world. I mean, imagine if he would have stayed in the UFC, done what he did against Fury, still would have been champ in the UFC. Imagine he would have been, guys, imagine he would have been UFC champ and beat Fury and been heavyweight champ of the world, lineal heavyweight boxing champ. I mean, this guy is the closest we've seen to be able to do that. We may never see something like that again. So how's he going to do against an AJ? If he can beat an AJ, I'm not surprised. Listen, AJ, I've said it before on this channel, and I'll say it again, as much as I love him, has not looked the same guy since that Andy Ruiz loss. He's not the same guy. And if he goes in there and messes around, he'll get caught by this guy. He'll get caught by this guy, and he'll get dropped. And if this guy can drop Tyson Fury, this guy can drop anyone in the heavyweight division. He's got lead in his hands, man. This guy's dangerous. So, just madness what's going on in the heavyweight division. I want to hear what you guys think. What fights are going to happen next? Who do you see winning these fights coming up? If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe. Join the channel. Put your comments in the comment section below and like this video. Don't forget, right? Help me build this channel by joining or getting your merchandise in the link below. FightersRep 20 is going down November 18th at the Commerce Casino. Let me see you guys there. Come out, buy tickets, stay at the hotel. We'll sit in the VIP. We'll have some drinks. Get your tickets. It'll be a great time. If you can't make it for whatever reason, you could join the channel and catch it. We're sitting at 18 fights. The most exciting rule set in combat sports, FightersRep. Look forward to hearing what you guys have to say about this one, man. But this is just crazy that we're here.